Hello, everyone. Can you hear us and see us? Please comment here because it would be really significant for us. So we make sure that we don't have any problems on today's retail talks. Okay, I will guess that we are live and that we don't have any problems. So welcome to another retail talks. My name is Milica and I'm the marketing manager at Fiscal Solutions. And today with us are my colleagues, Nikolina, Tara, and Stefan. They are legal consultants and country specialists at Fiscal Solutions. When I say country specialists, I mean they work on certain countries, do the research, communicate with companies there, tax authorities, legal entities, collect all fiscal documentation, and then they update Fiscal Portal, which is our online library for 20 fiscal countries. Tara, she is a specialist for Serbia, Nikolina for Portugal, and Stefan for France. So, of course, I will let them to introduce themselves in a couple of moments. What is actually really important to say? Okay, thank you for your feedback. It means a lot. So what is really important to say today is that we are streaming on LinkedIn and YouTube platform, and we actually experienced some problems with LinkedIn. So please, if you have any problems today, switch to our YouTube channel. We will put it in the comments. And if you can't find it there, you can find it on our LinkedIn page. Also, the whole event is recording, so you will be able to watch it as many times as you like, and you will be able to find it on our LinkedIn page and YouTube channel also. And of course, I'd like to announce one really interesting thing, and that is that on 8th of August, actually next Monday, we are starting our third masterclass, which is our free course about blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs. Everybody is welcome, and link for registration will be also in comments. Because I mentioned that Web3 world again and Web3 space, I should maybe explain a little bit Fiscal Solutions, what is our core business, and then maybe to start with today's topic. Thank you, Anna, so much. Okay, so of course, Fiscal Solutions is a company, as I've said that a lot, actually many times. I must say we are actually 18 years old company with more than 70 clients all around the globe. I mean, we have actually presence in 20 countries now, and these three we are going to talk about today are one of them, of course. We have 4 products, and those 4 products are actually everything you need for your fiscal project from the beginning till the end of the process. First of all, our first product is our internet portal, actually Fiscal Portal, where we publish documentation, news, alerts about 20 fiscal countries. And we have some new fiscal countries. Those are Lithuania, Greece, and Metaverse. Second thing is a workshop. So these guys right here actually are doing those workshops. It depends on the country you want to talk about and you want to hear more about. Of course, third is our software, as for fiscal, that implements fiscal requirements from 20 countries. And at the end of the process, fiscal help desk, which is fiscal support for your local business. Okay, I guess that now we came a little bit through this introduction part and so on. So before we start with today's topic, I guess that it would be great if maybe you introduce yourself, Nikolina, Tara, and Stefan. First of all, welcome to Retail Talks, and thank you for your time. So maybe to start with ladies, to give us a few words about yourself, Nikolina, Tara, and then Stefan.
Okay, thank you, Milica. Hello, everyone. Hello again. last week, I think that we have also live sessions, so I'm really excited because we are talking again. But this time I'm not alone. Today with me are my great colleagues from the legal team of the Fiscal Solutions. But before we start to talk, a few words about me. My name is Nikolina, and as I already said, I'm legal consultant at the Fiscal Solutions. I am in the company about a year and a half, and I'm in charge for, let's say, fiscalization in different countries, and one of them is Portugal. So I'm really excited to introduce you some, let's say, certification requirements, and also to compare that with some other countries that my colleagues are working on it. So that's it. And thank you, Milice, for the great introduction. And I want to thank Anna, Theodora, and all of audience who is with us, and especially for these kind words, because you said we are great, and I'm really happy to hear that. Hello, Darko. Hello, everyone.
Thank you, Nikolina. Great. It's great actually to have you here once again. Maybe yes. Sara, if you want to say a few words about yourself.
Yeah, so thank you, Milica, once again, and thank you, Nikolina, for this kind introduction. Okay, so yes, Nikolina and I held the previous retail talk again with our dear colleagues from marketing team, and today we are even in more numbers here. Yes. As for myself, my name is Tara. As Milica said, I am here in Fiscal Solutions as a legal consultant as well, and I am working on several countries and many different projects in fiscalization and even wider. And one of the countries that I cover is Serbia. And today I will be talking about Serbia as a country in terms of certification process, and also with the help of my colleagues, compare it to their countries. So
great. I guess it will be really interesting as Serbia introduced new fiscal law starting this year. So France also, they have complex fiscal system, actually certification process in fiscalization. So I guess that today we will have a lot of interesting information. And today we have one guy with us. Stefan, hello, how are you? Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, hi everyone. My name is Stefan Ditrih. I'm also a legal consultant at Fiscal Solutions. I'm in charge also in a few different countries when it comes to fiscalization, primarily France, Slovakia, Germany, and Austria. And fun fact, this is my first retail talk, and I'm really happy that I'm doing it together with you, amazing ladies, and such a great company to talk about this very specific but important topic. And to compare our knowledge, we can contrast the certification process in these three countries, which I think is very important to understand the certification process as a whole.
Great introduction. Thank you. I must add that we do a lot of events, fiscal talks, retail talks, webinars, and masterclass, a lot of things. So I actually didn't know that this is your first retail talks. So it's really my pleasure. Thank you for being here with us. So, okay, maybe to start with today's topic. So today we are talking about the certification process in France, Portugal, and Serbia, and we want to see what they have actually in common. So I guess that maybe my first question would be, what is usually the subject of certification, and maybe to go from country to country, if you agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Milice. If my dear colleagues agree, maybe I can start with this question. So basically, it is not really easy to give answer. But why is that? Because the certification procedure is very different from country to country, and that depends on the type of fiscalization. For example, if we have a fiscal device or fiscal printer as a fiscal device, it can be the subject of certification. Also, POS application can be subject of certification, or maybe whole solution as hardware or software. For example, in hardware-based systems, manufacturers of the fiscal device need to fulfill some, let's say, requirements, which are defined by the law, but not only by the law, also by technical regulations. So everything must be fulfilled and everything must be deeply checked. And that is, of course, logical because of all that system of fiscalization, and of course, because of the goals of the authorities to have the better control of the whole system.
I must add, sorry for interrupting you. I must add, we also have technical consultants in our team.
Yes.
Because you said there is some technical procedures.
Yes.
So they are not here today with us, but maybe they will be in some retail talk.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Please continue.
Okay. Yes, you mentioned that. I'm really glad because I just wanted to say that when we, let's say, thinking about certification procedure, we must, let's say, talk with our technical colleagues and prepare everything with them, because this subject is really also not only a legal one, but I would say maybe more technical. But to summarize, we can say that certification, we can find the name of certification is such a difference, let's say, terms. It can be like control or homologation or verification. But maybe to define that, we can say that certification is a special defined procedure for the fiscal device or different fiscal equipment, which must be, of course, be in compliance with the legal and technical requirements to serve, let's say, as, how can I say, validated device for capturing transaction and to fulfill all relevant requirements. So maybe I will summarize certification procedure in that one sentence if you want to know how to, let's say, understand it more. Yes.
Great, thank you. Maybe Stefan or Tara want to add something?
Yeah, well, I can just add that, as Nikolina very well explained, it's very important to understand the basis of the fiscalization system in order to understand the certification procedure, because in different systems, whether it's hardware and software, different elements are certified if certification is mandatory. From my point of view, from in France, the subject of certification is the entire POS system. France has a software-based fiscalization where the functionalities of the POS systems are the main elements that are certified. So if it's a cash management system that has a cash out function, vending machines, cash register systems, so any system that processes cash transactions needs to be certified in France. So going from the fact that we know that it's a software-based fiscalization, we know that the POS system, the entire POS system has to be certified.
Okay, thank you. Can you give me a number on a scale from 1 to 10? How complex do you find fiscalization in France?
Oh, 11.
11? Okay.
Good one.
We're going to talk about it in more detail, of course, as we go along, but it is a very complex procedure that you have to be very well prepared for and very well informed before you even start the process.
Okay. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Tara, maybe you want to add about Serbia or?
Yes. So thank you, Milica. I would like to add from my perspective about the certification process, but mainly about the process that is now currently in Serbia. So first of all, what happened in Serbia is the complete change of the fiscal system from the previous usage of the fiscal printers as the devices that were needed for the fiscalization process to occur smoothly and in all the terms according to the law and all the other requirements. Now we have a completely new devices and therefore a different system. This system it requires actually for the certification of more than one component from the electronic fiscal device. So those are the new fiscal devices in Serbia. So first of all, there are two specific components that need to be certified in Serbia as a part of the new fiscal devices. And those would be the local processor, the fiscal receipts, and also the electronic system for receipt issuance. So this is important also to understand because other than the local processor of the fiscal receipts, the element of the electronic fiscal device can also be another type of processor of the fiscal receipts in Serbia, and that would be the virtual processor of the fiscal receipts. But it is also really important to understand that in most cases you would need to have at least one local processor of fiscal receipts. So you not only have to certify one, but two components, or buy from someone who already certified them. And also because of all of this, we can say that Serbia has a kind of a hybrid fiscalization and a specific system. And I can also say that it has a complex certification procedure because not only one element is certified, but two elements with different requirements and many specifics along the way. So that is something that I believe it is important to note for Serbia. And I agree with my colleagues. It is quite country dependent, but all of these three countries that we cover today, we can say that they have complex certification processes and somewhat in different terms, complex fiscal systems.
Yes, I agree.
Yes.
Maybe to summarize, we can say that in France, Serbia, and Portugal, we will need to have POS application, let's say, certified. So that is, let's say, the main, what they have in common. If we talk in this certification terms, this is something that is in all three countries present and really neatly, let's say, predefined and all requirements that we must fulfill. So yeah, that is, let's say, a first similarity that we have in our three countries today.
Yeah, so actually I wanted to ask that, did I get to the point? Is that what is the similar to these three countries when we talk about it? Okay.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Yeah. So Nikolina is in tune with also another other colleagues. So we're all agreeing upon that conclusion. And also one of the really important segments that we're going to talk about here and some of the similarities between countries is who is actually responsible for certification in different fiscal countries. For instance, when talking about Serbia, the official body that does the whole certification process and that is responsible for issuing the certificate would be the tax administration of this country. And of course, the people working there who are the certificators themselves. So only they inside of the tax administration can approve any of these elements of the electronic fiscal device and issue a valid and legal certificate from that area. So there is actually no possibility in Serbia that any private company itself or any other entity other than tax authorities is allowed to lead the certification procedure, to provide any of the other elements of approval inside of the certification process that is reserved only for the official body, the tax authority itself. If in any case someone else notes that there are some other possibilities, it is important to make sure that you check at the tax authorities that the certification procedure is done according to the requirements that the tax authorities had set. And what is also important to note, which Nikolina also mentioned about Portugal and some other countries, is that many of the documents that are important for the certification procedure are mainly technical documents when talking about Serbia, for instance. And they are provided also in Serbia by the tax authorities and are available online publicly in front of the tax administration on their official website. And maybe in the end, I can say about this part that it's important to understand that tax authority has a whole team of certificators and technical inspectors that are a part of this whole process and that are checking the compliance of each of these elements and their functionalities prior to giving the certificate. So in the examination process, and also that each of the applicants can apply for not only one but more components of their device that they want to certify.
Yes, Tara, I can see that it is really complex in Serbia. So thank you for that. Also, maybe if I can just move on, pretty similar as it is in Serbia, we have some certification, let's say, body which is responsible in Portugal. It is also generated by the state, but it is, let's say, some private, not say private, some special, let's say, body which belongs to the Ministry of the Finance, and it is General of Taxation part of the Ministry of the Finance. So we can say it is a tax authority, and we can say that it is a special body which performs every step of the fiscalization in Portugal. So also we don't have any private company or any, let's say, private body who is in charge in Portugal. Also, let's say the tax authority under the Ministry of the Finance is responsible for whole, let's say, certification. But I believe maybe in France, Stefan will now, I think, I just continue to talk. I think maybe something is a little bit changed in France because of that certification, which is at point 11, how hard to understand is. So, Stefan, can you maybe appoint us about special body for certification in France?
Yes, thank you, Nikolina, for this segue. In France, the situation is a little bit different than in Serbia and Portugal. This is where some similarities stop and some differences begin when it comes to certification procedure. In France, the certification is not done by a state body or the tax authority. It's done by private certification companies that are accredited by the state to conduct certification of the POS system. Currently in France, we have two accredited certification bodies, and those are LNE and InfoCert. So both certification companies have their own certification rules and procedures. Although they have the same goal, according to the French law, every POS system has to fulfill 4 main conditions. So inalterability, security, retention, and archiving. So those are the conditions displayed by the law. And both LNE and InfoCert have their own certification rules that fulfill these conditions, but it's possible to fulfill these conditions in different ways. So before you even begin the certification procedure, you have to get informed about both companies and see what works best for you. Although, as I said, they have the same goal to get your POS certified, they do have different procedures and different requirements. So some might work for you in a better way, depending on your business, on the area of your business, what works best for you and your company. Once you apply for certification at either of those companies, you will get their certification rules. For example, if you choose InfoCert to certify your software, you will get their NF 525 certification rules, which they publish themselves. And then you can start the certification procedures. They will explain what the rules are about. You will have a little training session to get a quick overview of their certification rules, and then you'll have to implement all of the requirements into your POS system. Excuse me. Apart from these two certification companies, there is also a possibility of self-certification, where you must prove yourself that your system, your POS system, is compliant with the law. I would personally not recommend this, since the law is very broad and abstract and doesn't provide...
Because of number 11?
Because of number 11, that's right.
Okay.
The law doesn't provide any technical requirements on how to achieve these 4 conditions prescribed by the law. So it's up to you to fulfill them and to prove to the auditors that you fulfill all of the conditions prescribed by law. So it's easier. It's better, it's more clear to choose one of the certification bodies and get their certification rules and start implementing their processes into your POS system. As I said, number 11 suggests that the process is very complex, it's meticulous, but it's not dependent on the company you choose to certify your software. Whether you choose LNE or InfoCert, the procedure will be, complicated. You have to be prepared. The timeframes for certification are similar, and they are largely dependent on how quickly you can integrate all the requirements into your POS system. So it can take from a couple of months to even 6 months from our experience to fulfill all the requirements. The price of the certification is also a little bit different. For InfoCert is between 10 and 15,000 euros, depending on your system, and for LNE it's 20 to 25,000 euros. So there's a slight difference in the price of the certification. The processes are a little bit different, but as I said, the end goal is the same, to get your POS to be legally compliant with all the French fiscal requirements. Also, I think that apart from who is doing the certification, it's very important to explain who can apply for certification. Are there some special conditions you must meet before you apply? For France, there are no special conditions you have to meet before you apply for certification. As I said, you have to get informed, schedule consultations with accredited certification companies, and once you apply for certification, they will send you their certification rules, and you'll have a few meetings with them where they explain how the entire process works, and then you can move on to integrating all the requirements into your POS system, because every person subjected to VAT, when they're dealing with cash payments, when they're registering payments with their system, they have to use a certified system. If you're using a not certified system, you can have real problems with the tax administration. So although technically the certification procedure is not mandatory, in reality it really is, because you can't use a non-certified system, and if you opt for self-certification, that can cause some problems down the road. Although in the beginning it seems like an easier solution, like I'll just meet these requirements, I don't have to pay any certification body, it will be easier. It can cause problems down the line. Also, it's important to note, if you're a POS provider, you can go with self-certification if you're making your own POS. If you're a retailer that uses in-house POS system, you can't be self-certified. So only software companies that produce POS systems can be self-certified. So if you have an in-house system, you're a retailer, you have to go through one of these certification bodies. So once you register with either InfoCert or LNE, they will of course require you to make your first payment, and then they will send you all the rules and they will schedule meetings. There's training involved. So if you have a team designated to conduct the certification on your side as a taxpayer, then this training will be very useful for them to understand how the certification process works, how are the requirements actually implemented. Because when you just read the certification rules, they can seem very abstract and very dry, like the information is just listed. It's not easy to get around it when you first start reading it. So it's important to get informed beforehand, to get informed about the companies that are doing the certification, to get all the documentation, to leave enough time to read the instructions, to read the certification procedures, and then also leave enough time to implement them in your POS system.
Thank you, Stefan. You've explained a lot about this part, and I believe that you mentioned something about who can actually apply for certification, and you told us more about the companies and what are the recommendations for them if they're going to certify their devices in France, which is really important since there are also some requirements regarding this in Serbia. But we can say in general that in Serbia, there are no certain complex special conditions for companies that somewhat in those terms, but there are some basics that need to be covered. So not every company in the world can get an approval of their solution in Serbia, because there are some basic requirements that need to be fulfilled. First of all, you can apply if you have a company that has a tax identification number in Serbia, so that is established in Serbia, has a business seat in Serbia, and does their business in Serbia. They can do it in other countries as well, but also in Serbia. Or in other cases, some company can go and do the certification process through a certain local partner in Serbia. But in that case, this is somewhat different, because then the applicant for the certification of their product needs to be the company that is here actually in Serbia and that has their tax identification number here. Why is this important? Because the solution itself, be it the electronic system for issuing receipts or the local processor of fiscal receipts, as the certified product, they would be, we can say, the company that applies will be the one who has that solution, in whose name the solution will be published, and all the other companies would actually need to buy licenses and start some kind of a connection and work with those companies. So it is a bit different, but we can say other than that, no specific complex conditions need to be met, but it's also important that the applicant knows is he going to have that solution created only for himself, so that company that is the applicant, or wider, also for maybe some other companies, and prepare it for sales on the market. This is important because from this it depends what kind of solution and the application is created, and somewhat the process is different, or even some other documents and receipts that need to be created during the process. So I believe that yes, we have some similarities and some differences, but France, as I can hear, is quite specific in this area as well.
Oh, yes. If I can just, let's say, skip it up a little bit here, I can say that the situation is pretty similar in Portugal also as it is in Serbia. So I can say that this is really similar in these two countries, but France is a little bit different. So for the Portugal, I can say that to be able to apply for certification, also local partner is mandatory, and applicant must request Portuguese tax identification number. So maybe, in other words, if I can say that, we can say that if the software company which developed the software is not established in Portugal, it can have some temporary, let's say, account, and to obtain a Portuguese tax identity number. Also that only for the certification of the POS software. So I can say this requires some local partner or something there to get the, let's say, mandatory informations and requirements for certification procedure. So I can say that retailer company must have a local branch which is established in Portugal for performing retail process. But POS software provider does not have to register or open a firm or something like that. It can just, let's say, fulfill certification requirements and proceed with some local partners. So I can say this is, let's say, different in all three countries, but maybe the similarities between Serbia and Portugal pretty much bigger than it is in Serbia. I think my colleagues will agree with me. I can say it is, let's say, not so easy to understand in all of three countries. But yes, special rules are special rules.
I can testify that definitely it's not easy for me at all, especially because I'm not from that profession as you. So it's really hard for me. And I guess, especially for some maybe project managers or something like that from huge international companies, when they have like, I don't know, projects to expand in another country, and they aren't lawyers, so it's probably sometimes really, really, how I should say, problematic maybe. Nikolina, while you were talking, I wanted to ask you one more question about Portugal and of course. Certification process, and maybe if Stefan and Tara after that add about the Serbia and France. So my question is, in general, what are like main steps in relation to a certification process? Maybe some like overview.
Okay, great question, Milica, because I believe that we need to, let's say, in general, of course, to present what are, let's say, mandatory steps for certification, and maybe at the end we can summarize, is it maybe similar or it's not, because it's really, let's say, complex question. But in, as I like to say, a few sentences, I could say that in Portugal we have online software fiscalization, and that means that all the fiscal requirements are in the software. And also, of course, because that online world, online communication with tax authority is required. We don't need any specific hardware requirements. So basically everything is in software. We have different communication with the tax authority. It is established in 3 ways, like electronic transaction submission, sending the SFT file, and some manual transaction submission. But if we, let's say, go straight to the point, to the certification, we can say that some mandatory requirements, of course, must be fulfilled. And before all that certification process, the test environment must be set in order to test all the requirements. So that test certificate needs to have username and password to go to the web service, which can be obtained from the tax authority portal. As I already mentioned, the company must obtain the Portuguese tax identification number to get some password to access to that portal. Once that everything that is done, which will be mandatory, is to submit some Model 24 declaration, and that requires some public key to be submitted and to combine all requirements which some ordinance, which is specialized ordinance for the fiscalization in Portugal states. Also, it is mandatory to submit examples of documentation in PDF format, what, let's say, which are will be issued from that software, and that needs to be all validated to some special, let's say, portal of the tax authority. After submission, that, let's say, declaration, owner of the software is requested to provide example of all documents in PDF format that program issued, and also that SFT file, which must previously be validated also in the website of the tax authority. Different, let's say, documentation they can ask, for example, invoices, receipts, credit notes, all similar receipts, which needs to be, let's say, fulfilled. Also, maybe for our audience to be, let's say, in general, to get that step-by-step procedure, we can say that what is mandatory is to obtain the tax identification number, to go to the website, to, of course, before all that, to develop a software, then to submit a 24 model declaration, then to provide receipts and SFT file, then face-to-face meeting will be needed, and at the end, if everything is okay, it will be, a certificate will be issued. So let's say that is in the few sentence overview about step-by-step of a certification in Portugal. Not so easy to understand, but let's say we can summarize it in a couple of, let's say, general steps.
Definitely not easy. Yes. A lot of steps.
Yes.
Step by step, but there is a lot of steps.
A lot of steps.
Yeah, when we talk about those steps, I would love to hear Stefan, because we realize that France is really complex when you talk about certification. So maybe Stefan to tell us more about these steps in France.
Yes, please. As I hear, Portugal is not far from 11 also. With all the steps.
I would say so.
Really clear, maybe 10 and a half.
Well, in France, the entire process has only 4 steps. So it's deceptively simple when in reality it's really not. As I already mentioned, the entire process really depends on how fast you can adapt your POS system to the French requirements. So that will make the process shorter or longer depending on the human resources you have, how fast you can adapt. So really, it's really dependent on you as a taxpayer, how fast it's going to go or how complex it's going to be. As I said, there are 4 main parts. preparation, the audit, audit report, and then yearly monitoring. The first part, preparation, is of course you as a taxpayer who wants to get, or as a POS provider who wants to get their POS certified for use in France, you have to apply for certification at one of two certification bodies in France. Once you apply, you will get the certification rules from that specific company, and they will also schedule a few meetings and trainings for you to understand the certification rules and procedures in the most in a better way, so you can speed up the process. Once you get the requirements and you integrate them in your software, as I said, this part is largely dependent on you as an applicant for certification. Once that procedure is completed, then you'll schedule an audit. So the audit will be done by special auditors sent by the certification body. They can be done online or in person at the premises of the applicant. In that case, you have to be mindful of the additional costs that you may incur, such as travel costs, accommodation, and so on, because the audits can sometimes last longer than a single day, so a few days. It's important to note that they can be done in French or in English, and you'll have to specify that in advance, so they'll know who to send for the audit. Once the audit is completed, you will get a notification, a report about how the audit went. So at this point, the entire project can have a few setbacks depending what you need to fix and how big the problems are the auditor saw in your system. So in this phase, it can move really quickly if everything is up to the regulation, if the auditor is satisfied. If not, then you'll get a time frame in which you can fix everything that the auditor noticed that needs to be fixed in order to for the POS system to be compliant with their requirements, and then you will reschedule another audit to see if everything is now up to the standards of the auditor. Also important is the fourth step, and that's yearly monitoring. It consists of smaller audits that happen on an annual basis, that just to check that everything is still up to the standards. But also, if there are some software changes, you'll also have to notify the certification body so they can assess the new version of the software. There we have to differentiate between major and minor versions, changes in the software. So if a minor version happens, for example, you're changing the color of on-screen tabs or something, that is not that important, so that the system doesn't need to be certified again. But if there are major changes, for example, the core code is changing, the elements that are affecting the fiscal requirements are changing, you have to recertify your software. Because once you get the certificate, it will have the software version on it. So it's specifically for that software version. So every time you make major software changes, you'll have to go through another audit to check if your system is still compliant. Of course, once you're done with that initial first audit where you need to get your first certificate, all the other audits are a bit simpler and they don't take as much time, and they are usually done in somewhat quickly. Of course, if there is a major law change, then you'll have to recertify your system, and that can also have different effects on how long the certification process will be. So just to underline, the certification process is largely dependent on how fast you can update your POS system to be compliant with the requirements of the French certification companies and all the requirements laid out in certification rules that are based on the French law regarding to fiscal systems.
Yes. So like 4 steps, but 100 of under steps. Yeah. Definitely. Tara, please tell us more about Serbia, as we are like running a little bit out of time. So maybe we should go through Serbia a little bit. And then I have one more question that I want to ask.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Milica, and thank you, Stefano, for this detailed and really important information about France. I know I learned a lot right now, so I believe everyone else has as well. Yes. So as for Serbia, I'm just gonna briefly say that from some of these things that Nikolina and Stefan said, there are some similarities. For instance, as an online procedure and something that also always needs to be, many of the things can be delivered electronically, as Nikolina also said in Portugal. There are many requirements that need to be checked along the way many times, and that is also similar with what Stefan said in France. So those main steps for Serbia, for instance, are what is important. They need to occur in certain order. There are two biggest elements of the procedure in Serbia. The certification procedure consists of the technical review and administrative review. And if you pass technical review, then you can go to the administrative review. So it is a prerequisite for the other part of certification. It's important to know also that prior to that, there is also needed to, for anyone who wants to apply, to register to a special development environment, as they call it here. So each supplier of the element of electronic fiscal device would need to register first to that special portal, need to have certain elements entered there. Also, depending on the solution that they are going to certify, there are different samples that need to be provided for each of the certification elements of the technical part. There needs to be also checking of many different samples and testing of course, the technical part, and is the solution well prepared? Can it produce the result that it needs to produce and create the receipt that it needs to create? So I'm not going to go in many details here because it's such a deep topic and has a lot of information. But what is important also to know that after passing all of these steps, there are also some administrative part and some documentation that needs to be provided, where it's important to understand Serbian language, also to provide some documentation in certain segments and with certain elements. And also the process of certification in Serbia ends with the approval decision, and that decision is sent electronically also to the applicant. So whole procedure is created and done electronically. And as a final touch, we can say the information describing that certified solution will have its special name, version number, the company that is the producer, and this main information is going to be published online and made open for anyone to see, as I believe that we have maybe mentioned before. And if I might add here that in each country, there are certain technical requirements that must be met, and those are usually the most important ones, especially in the first part of the process. And that is something that is, we can say, common in many different countries. Also, different kind of tests, different samples of the main types of receipts would need to be delivered to the certificator as or some kind of other proof of successful way of creating fiscal receipts or creating the layout of any other of the documents of the fiscal device. And if I might add here what is some of the most important things that is usually asked in terms of the certification, and when somebody's entering a new country, they also want to know, is there kind of a special register or some kind of portal where all the approved and certified solutions are listed, and if they can find a solution that is definitely certified according to the requirements in that country. So it's important to understand about Serbia that this information is also public. It is available on the tax authority's official website. There is a special segment that is created on the website with the registry of all the certified elements of electronic fiscal devices. So those would be the, as I said, electronic system for issuing receipts, which is most similar to the POS application in other countries, because term is specific for Serbia, but it is mostly regarding that. And also the local processor of the fiscal receipts as a special software solution, usually a software solution, because both of these solutions can be both hardware and software kind. And this special registry, as I previously mentioned, has certain information regarding the producers, the certified products, what are the versions that are certified, and when was the moment when they received the certificate, which is important because in case that the license is revoked or that they cannot place that solution more and in the future on the market, that is also going to be available and is right now available on the tax authorities website. So this open registry that the tax authorities are that they created, it is being maintained on the daily basis, and it regularly shows different information. And also it's important that this allows for, we can say, a more secure fiscal environment in Serbia, and helps new companies that are just entering the market or that want to create a change in their device that they're using to easily find the solutions to choose from.
I totally agree with you, Tara, and I think it's really convenient for, let's say, all taxpayers and everyone who wants to get certificate in the particular country, and that is that register. Also, I can say it is pretty much similar how it is in Serbia. Also, it is in Portugal. We have a special list of the programs and respective certificate versions, and all notification, let's say, of the producers, which can be found on the tax authority DGCI website. So another similarity between, let's say, Serbia and Portugal, although they are different, let's say, fiscalization systems, but this is also one of the similarity is that, let's say, online register of approved software, which is, if you ask about my country, which is Portugal. So yes, register exists in Portugal also.
Okay, thank you so much. I love it how you start right after Tara finished. So thank you so much.
Can I interrupt you just for 1 second?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, my mic was muted. I again have to be the odd one out because in France there is no unified list of certified software.
Of course.
Why
simple?
Yeah.
Both InfoCert and LNE have their own lists of the softwares they certified. On the other hand, there is no list for the self-certified software. So if you're entering the market wanting to buy a POS system, you will have to check, first of all, with the POS providers if they can show you their certificate, or check the InfoCert or LNE websites to see what's the list of the certified softwares for their certification bodies. Also, I would just like to mention quickly one also important topic that I'm very interested in. Is it similar in Serbia and Portugal too? And that is the length of the certificate. So once you have your system certified, how long does the certificate last? In France, certificates are issued for the period of 3 years. However, as I already mentioned, there is annual monitoring of conformity. Also, if there are major changes in the software, then a not so comprehensive audit will take place, so you can get your certification extended to the new version of the software, or if in case of annual monitoring, they will just confirm that your software is still valid, and then after 3 years, you'll have to do the big audit again. And if you make major changes to the software, you have to report them yourself. On the other hand, for minor versions, you don't need to report them, and they do not affect the certificate validity.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan, for noting that and mentioning if there are some similarities in our countries, because yes, there are. So in Serbia, when we talk about the need for recertification, first of all, it is needed in certain cases, depending on what the changes are. So if the changes are, as you said, in France, as in France, minor, and if they are not so important for the functioning of the software or the hardware plus software solution, depending on the solution, then it might not be needed to do a recertification. But in case that a change is important and is a part of was the part of the certification procedure, for instance, if another receipt, type of receipt is added or something like that, then you would need to reapply for certification, which would actually need to happen through all of the steps again. But we believe, and like it happened in practice, it is a faster and more easier process because only those changes will be checked. And also regarding the time frame and actually the lasting of the certificate in Serbia, there is no prior time frame defined. So the certificate is not defined to last for a certain period of time, such as in some other countries that we cover. But what is need to be understood in Serbia is that different technical documentation especially is updated on the regular, and if there are some important changes and some new requirements that are a part of the certification process, and if they occur after you certify your solution and that you need to implement it to stay compliant, then you would also need to reapply, need to do some changes on your solution. But there is no previously defined timeline for how long the certificate lasts.
Yes, pretty much similar is also in Portugal. I cannot say that is another similarity between these three countries. Also in Portugal, depending on the how long changes and other technical documentation, Tara really good explain that. It's everything depends. So there is no recertification if no new documents are created, but if the law changes and some mandatory requirements pop up, it will be mandatory to implement that changes and to do a recertification procedure. Also, Stefan already said that it is not so complex as that first certification procedure, but as I said, it really depending of the law changes and let's say what is current situation there. Yes, another similarity.
Okay, thank you so much. You guys are rocking for real. Yeah, I have actually one more question when we talk about this procedure. If that would be great if you answer to me, and if we maybe find some other similarities also. So I would like to know what is the best way to solve this certification procedure. I mean, like preparation and if there are some problems, challenges in the practice and so on. So maybe if you can briefly introduce us to that part of procedure.
I need to say first.
Okay, go ahead.
The stage is yours.
Okay. First, things that I would tell to our audience is to be prepared and start implementation on time. So that is really important. That requires months, maybe years of preparation to get knowledge of what are mandatory device, what certification means, how to apply, what needs to be done, the procedure, everything. So all of that you need to keep in the mind because some problems can pop up, some errors. It is necessary also to monitor all process, to apply certain changes. So I would say that preparation and right time and start implementation on time is something that I wanted to advise, and I advise to all our clients, not only in the Portugal, but in other countries where certification is needed. It's something that is a must if you ask me.
Yes, so Nikolina, yes, thank you so much. This is a great introduction into this part and a great answer as well. So I agree with you totally. It is not only Portugal, referring to Portugal, but also to our countries as well. And also a good preparation is really the most important part, but not only that, but also adjusting along the way. So different problems can slow down the process. So the applicant who planned to meet a certain deadline, for example, and have his solution ready and certified, needs to do some different steps. He needs to be more flexible in the process. He would need to do everything that the tax authorities recommends, and also if he has, for example, a company who helps them in the process of certification, also that is one way to have a faster and more smooth certification. And also he would need to follow that company would need to follow the guides and different rules set by the certificators. So they would also need to take in mind that the certificators are not only following those technical documents, but they are humans as well, and they make mistakes and they maybe oversee some things, and you would need to also communicate openly with them and ask how to adjust the solution, because it is rare that the process goes smoothly without any setbacks and just as it was planned previously. So it is definitely not easy to successfully complete this process, but it is also really it is possible, and it is quite a usual situation after some time. But there are many ways that the applicant can prepare and can do his part to pass the certification process with more ease and in we can say a faster pace. So and get his solution ready for the market or for his own usage.
Definitely, I can see that we do have something in common, and that is that I can give very similar advice to everyone who wishes to certify their POS system in France. The most important thing is to have a dedicated team for the certification procedure with well-designed internal procedures and task management. And in this sense, preparation is key. Get informed well in advance and start the implementation process on time. Please do not expect to go through this process quickly in the last possible moment. So if you're planning to, for example, open the store in France, don't wait for the opening of the store. Just do that well ahead of time. Expect setbacks, expect delays. As my colleague said, this is a complicated procedure. There's a human element to it, so expect the unexpected. However, it might be complicated. It is clearly laid out. There are certain steps and hoops you need to go through to fulfill all the requirements. So it's not something that's not possible. It's just that you need to be very good with your planning and your team management, your time management. Get informed. So choose, for France specifically, choose a certification company, schedule a meeting to get informed, get the certification rules, study them before you start the implementation process, and then go into the implementation and all the other steps, as I said, well in advance.
Great. These were actually great recommendation points for our listeners today. Thank you so much, guys. This was really interesting because I always learn something when I have these events with you. Maybe if some of you want to like give us maybe 2 or 3 sentences, like what are those similarities at the end of the day? So we like went through some really big and complex procedures. And can you just tell us at the very end, what are actually those similarities?
Yes, that is a great conclusion to this video and this live event for us. So if you agree, I would like to add. So from my perspective, yes, I can certainly say that there are many complex and challenging parts of the process. And also what you first need to do is expect changes and setbacks, and also prepare yourself with knowledge, but also prepare to receive different and changing information during the process, and be well aware that you need to have different relevant documentation, and check if the versions of the documents are actually the ones that are used. And what is also recommended is if you're not in the country most of the time, or if you're not here familiar, for instance, in Serbia with all the requirements, that you do have someone for the local support, or at least for some kind of most relevant and timely information, because that is time is of essence, and it's really important, I believe, for anyone's business to have a solution that is certified on time and according to all the requirements without many mistakes.
Yes, if I can add, you need to count on all of the changes that can happen and to be compliant with the law and regulation. So I would say that the time and preparation is, let's say, the main key of all of this topic. We heard that we have some similarity, but basically every different France, Portugal, and Serbia is really different. So we have some similarities, but mandatory requirements are really different and depend on the country. Yes.
Thank you so much. Actually,
thank you,
it was my
also.
pleasure. Yeah, this was really, really significant topic. And I must add, firstly, thank you because you were here today. You actually gave us really, really significant information when it comes to certification process, which is really complex. Like, I think it's complex for every country. It's yes. Always something that gives you a headache, and like, I don't know, you need a lot of documentation and stuff like that. So it's not really easy if you're a retailer and you have to go in some other country and to adapt your huge business concept to those yes. laws. I mean, we are always talking about the laws. So thank you once again for your time and all these information.
You're welcome.
And thanks everyone for watching us and listening.
Why we are here. That is why we are here, to explain everything in, let's say, a couple of steps. So yes.
Yeah, as always. I actually always count on you. So you don't have a lot of choices.
Yeah, and we count on you as well. So yes, we'll be here again, I believe, soon.
Yeah, I guess.
We can talk for hours if you just let us. That's
yes, especially when we are talking about the certification process. Thank you guys for the comments.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, everyone.
Yes, before we finish, because we are 2 minutes past 4, I would like to add that once again that we have our third masterclass on Web3 topics. You can learn about blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and NFTs, and we are starting next Monday, actually the following Monday, which is the 8th of August. So that will be all. You can find the links, access link actually on our LinkedIn page. This whole event was recorded, so you can find it on our LinkedIn page also and YouTube channel. Thank you once again, everyone, and see you in 2 weeks, right?
I can't wait. Thank you all.
See you. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.
Bye.